Hey guys, welcome to a new tutorial. Today we're going to have a look at how to create this scene. It's This scene uses a number of techniques, as you can see. We have our floor texture with displacement. We have this grass asset using Gscatter, which is a new plugin, and a couple of rocks scaled around, a water texture, and this abstract shape flying in the air. And all together it looks like this. Oh yeah, we also have a cloud asset, which I will provide in the comments. Alright, so let's get started. This is a fresh, new Blender. We're gonna start with a plane, which we are going to match the size of this scene. Let's see the size of this plane. "22 by 40 meters. Alright. This is gonna be our floor. So first thing we're gonna do is get a texture, Forest Roots from Megascans. Alright, we're gonna hit export. Then over on our plane, we're gonna add a bunch of subdivisions. In both directions. Alright, this is our base. Next up, we're gonna assign that texture that we imported. Right now it looks like this, which we're gonna adjust in the UV editor. Turn on this. And just scale it so it gets a good size, good relative size to the scene. Something like this. Maybe a bit bigger actually, so we don't get that much tiling. Alright, that looks alright for now. Next up, we're gonna add subdivisions, even more than we already have. Put this to 2 and add a displace modifier. And if we switch over back to Quixel, we can right click and go to the files. It will lead us to this folder. Which we can use over here to load our texture. And we're gonna use the 2K displacement for now. Alright. As you can see, now we have a viewport displacement. But it's not using the same UV. Which we are going to want to assign. Over here, UV. Okay, now it's using the same. Turn up the subdivisions quite a lot so that we can see all this detail. And for now, the strength is too strong. So turn it to 0.5. All right. Next up, I have this physical atmosphere plugin. Which you can use to create a moody night sky, in our case. I really like the ease of this plugin, so that's why I'm using it. Ease of use. Alright, next up, let's create a camera so we can start previewing what we're working towards. Alright. Let's see. In my other scene I used a 21:9 aspect ratio, which is gives a nice and filmic effect. So there we have that. Let's make this our rendered view and this our working view. Okay. Now let's make another plane. This is going to be our water plane. Just create a new shader. Remove the base color. Specular to 1, roughness to 0. Alright, that looks good for now. We could actually add a little roughness. Very subtle. And let's give it our proper names. Let's call this forest. What's the name? Forest roots. This is our water. Alright. Now in our forest roots, let's sculpt a bit so that we can create some variety. We could disable the displacement for now. Alright. Now create a little hill over here in the middle. And a little nice path leading up towards the center of our scene. Okay. Now we can re-enable the forest roots displacement. And let's dial it down actually, 2.2. 0.4 actually. Doing some adjustments here, creating a little more variety. All right. Next up, we're gonna go into Gscatter. First of all, let's save our scene. Scattering objects is always quite heavy for computers, so it's good to often save, especially before you do this type of stuff. So next up, we're gonna go into the Gscatter menu and add it to our scene. We can select our forest roots over here and scatter selected. This actually looks a little odd. All right, that fixes it. Right, let's repeat. All right, I had to pause the recording for a minute because I ran into an issue which is very easy to solve. So what I did creating this plane is I scaled it, and this doesn't work with Gscatter. So if in case you scale it, what you need to do is go to Object, Apply, and Scale. That's it. And if you then scatter your objects, they will actually scatter over the entire object. All right, there we go. This plugin is very useful. You can paint. So I'm just gonna paint on top of the land where we want our grass to grow. It's a little heavy as you can see, so I'm gonna increase this quite a lot. Just quickly scatter around a bunch of grass. Let's see, you can also remove it. Subtract. I want to make a little nice pathway towards the center of our scene. So I'm gonna reduce the amount of grass in the middle. All right, okay. So that's it. We lose our selection, and there we go. Very quickly, we start to get a lot of detail in our scene. Okay, next up, we're gonna go into more free assets of Megascans. And we're gonna get rocks. I'm not gonna scatter these because I'm just gonna copy and paste a couple of them. Creating a nice composition. So one here. The scene will be slightly different from the original render I did, which is actually a nice thing. Alright, so here we have 3 rocks. I want to go back into the camera. I want to try 25 millimeters. I actually like 70 millimeters. This gives a bit more of a filmic feeling. Let's try to get the edge here in the view like this. Let's pull this down a little bit more water. All right. And lastly, let's tilt the camera up slightly. Right. Next up, I'm gonna bring in a VDB. Which I will provide in the comments. What this does is create a nice little foggy atmosphere for us. We're just gonna create the material for it. Adjust the density. It can be really low. Alright, next up we're going to create a cylinder. This is going to be our glowing cylinder. What I did was delete the middle, then extrude this out along normals. Then grow your selection with the up arrow, and this is going to get a separate material. Assign, create another material, select the inverse, and assign again. There. And as you can see, it's not lighting up. This is a limitation of Eevee, which is okay, because we can work around it. All we need to do is create a light, an area light. Make it the same size as the circle. And we can actually make it a disk. So now it fits exactly into the circle. Now make a copy and rotate it. (180). And now Alt select, Shift select, and Alt and Shift drop them on the cylinder so that they get parented like this. Alright, and now we can play with the strength of it. It's not completely centered, I feel like this, yeah. Let's bring in another free asset. This one. Scale it up. And from here on, it's mainly playing with the composition until you get what you would like. So I'm quite happy with how this looks. Next up, we're going to animate our camera. Let's make another split horizontal. make a keyframe, go to frame 250. Set another keyframe. Now we need to go into our graph editor and press F. So we get to see our keyframes. And as you can see, it has a little ease in and out, and we want to get rid of that. So select the keyframes, right click and set it to linear. So now we have a nice and steady motion. Next up, we're going to animate our disk. And basically add a bunch of keyframes until you get what you like. Let's make sure this is Bezier. Doesn't animate. Interesting. Oh, of course. I'm not animating the rotation. So again, so I encourage you to get creative with this one and animate it to your liking. And feel free to share the results. I'm very curious what you guys come up with. So that's it for now. Oh, actually, lastly, so our cloud is static for now, but we also want to give that some keyframes. So get some sense of moving smoke in our scene. Again, create these linear. And this is a little hard to preview, but once you render a couple of frames, you'll get an idea of what it is going to look like. Let's give it a try. Let's actually choose a save location already. Let's call it gscatter. And it's going to be a PNG sequence. Alright, I rendered a small part of it, so we can test it. Alright, the smoke feels good. The speed, it's subtle. So let's leave that. This motion starts in the beginning of the shot. That's not super nice, so let's do it like this. So it starts out with some motion, then it slows down. That could be a cool effect. Alright, lastly, we can add some bloom. Let's increase our shader, our red shader. The emission, set it to 5. Alright, now we get a bit more glow. Let's leave it at 5. Yeah, okay. Alright, that's it for now. Yeah. Thanks for watching and see you next time.